There are fewer than 30 men in the world qualified to drive Formula One. A mere half dozen, perhaps, to win. At this moment, I'm inclined to think you're not one of them.
No, you want to. Keep up the good work, and there you have it. There you go. With the qualifying. Welcome to F1Weekly.com. My name is Clark Rogers. I'm the host of the program. I'll be joined by NASIR Hamid, my co-host. This is podcast number 1013, October 9th, 2023. NASIR.
Thank you, sir. I say Max goes 3 in a row. Oscar delivers dingo bite to Lando. Sand in the Vaseline for Logan and Checo. We shall explain, gladly. Back to you, Chief.
Thank you, NASIR. On tonight's program, Qatar Grand Prix was hell, torture, sweat, tears, vomit. Why are we even there? Congratulations to Max for winning the Drivers' World Championship, number 3 in a row. Awesome. McLaren catching up to Red Bull with a side dish of competition. And you'll look, those come with chips. And Fernando gets the hot seat. LCH sings our favorite tune, So Sorry. And of course, stay tuned for all that and more. And this week's interview, ladies and gentlemen, from the archives again, Jean-Pierre Beltoise, originally aired on podcast 359. And Nas will have the minute details on that glorious interview. And just a reminder, of course, we need your contributions to keep this program up on the cloud. So just click on the Support F1 Weekly tab. You know you want to. Nas, I'm sure you loved every bit of this weekend. The sweat, the humidity, the sand. You could feel it in your teeth. It was like eating oyster shells all day long. And of course, I didn't even mention Lance Stroll or Logan Sargent yet. Nas, how are you doing?
I'm doing very good, sir. Thank you. And I hope all is well on the left coast also.
Absolutely, NASIR. I live in California. A wonderful day every day, especially if you put a little pomade in your hair.
There you go. Okay, sir. Today we have a fully loaded in-flight burrito, non-stop on Qatar Airways all the way to Doha. Another race in the Arabian Night. Another starry performance by the Dutch master. So let's get down to quali on Friday, which was interesting. And you know, this shootout, sprint shootout, what it is, it's still confusing for me, but we'll skip that part. The quali on Friday was a case of why am I not surprised. One Red Bull on pole position by almost half a second for the 10th time this season. The other Red Bull was victim of track limits and qualified 13th. So not a good start for numero dos. Then came the usual Formula One comedy hour. Lando Norris set the second fastest lap, and the interviewer Naomi Schiff was surprised and even asked Oscar Piastri, "Why am I talking to you?" Norris also lost his best time due to track limits. Here is the best part. In the middle of the interview with Naomi, she had to inform Piastri, "Your front row start is no longer valid," and he very politely responded, "Wonderful," or something like that. So we have Mercedes second and third on the grid, George on the front row. Always a pleasure and throwback to the 2007 season to see Lucky Luciano and Machismo on same row. Sir, did you find that interview a little amusing as I did?
I found a lot of things amusing throughout the whole weekend. There was so much going on. Emotions, drama, pushing and shoving. Nas, it just doesn't end in Formula One. I just can't wait till we get to that cold Las Vegas strip.
Oh yes. The talking point, here is my favorite part. The talking point of Qatar quali was the what you call outstanding performance in the media pen of the driver who qualified 17th. Here is my boy Lollipop with a very sour taste.
Well, Lance, we saw frustration from you on the TV screens. This obviously means so much to you. What are your emotions right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for the language there. What is not clicking for you behind the wheel at the moment?
I don't know.
And how does this change your mindset for the weekend? Is it now a test session? Are you going to go for it in the sprint?
Keep driving.
You have any thoughts on Lance's behavior?
It was leaning on the bizarre for sure. I understand that when you're number two and Fernando is your teammate, it can be demoralizing. It's a tough world, but he has taken it to a next level. And I'm telling you, not only that, but some of the stuff that his father is saying that as well this weekend, I thought was a little bit selfish, but I don't know. But I feel sorry for Lance. I think he really should embrace tennis as soon as possible.
Exactly. Now a quick look at the sprint shootout on Saturday. Are you enjoying these sprint races, by the way? Some people are still not sold on it.
Well, it's a faux race because the biggest problem, and Perez will explain it to you, is you really don't want to crash, especially a big crash in the sprint race because you got to race the following day. So there's a lot of pressure. So there's really no 100% racing here because you got to make sure your car is going to stay in one shape. So it looked exciting. You got 19 fast laps, but the tire issues during the weekend really started to dominate, really put everything on the back foot. But I do enjoy the sprint race when they do it. I just don't like the shootout. I think they just should skip that and make it more by chance, and everybody should just draw a number to set the grid to make it more laughter and fun. And whatever. I'm not a big fan. I really like the traditional Grand Prix weekend in the old 1960s and 70s way.
Okay, thanks for sharing your thoughts. So in the sprint shootout on Saturday, Papaya car speeding fast laps to grab the front row, with Oscar Piastri initiating cage rattling at McLaren by taking pole position over Lando Norris. The sprint race took place on Saturday a few hours after the shootout, and like you said, for 19 laps. Now, this was interesting. The first 11 laps were like the last 11 laps of Daytona 500, caution after caution. George led briefly on soft tires, but on lap 11, Oscar on mediums retook charge. With few laps remaining, Max had made it to second, but Saturday night fever belonged to Oscar Piastri, who took his first F1 race in his 17th Grand Prix weekend, so our congratulations to him. Thanks to Sergio Perez crashing out with a little help from Esteban Ocon and Nico Hülkenberg, Max did not have to wait till Sunday evening to be told by Christian Horner, "Max Verstappen, you are 3-time world champion." So congratulations to Max and his team for going 3 in a row. Now, interestingly, Max is the only second driver to win his first 3 championships in a row. The other is another Red Bull find of the decade, Sebastian Vettel, who won all his 4 titles in a row. Any comments on the sprint race, sir, apart from the Perez? I have to say, Perez was innocent. He did not make the mistake.
You're right. But he was there because he's not qualifying at the front with Max. You know, there's always going to... I understand it wasn't his fault, but that's what happens when you're in the back fighting with all these crazy people. And it's very disappointing because if you look at McLaren, very tight together, always 1-2, 2-1, 2-3, 3-2. But I think Perez is really more rattled. He just doesn't behave like Stroll. But it's a concern, and his career is definitely in jeopardy unless he can pick it up in the final 5 races and see what we can do.
It reminds me of a comment by Dr. Marco about Pierre Gasly He said that every time he got in the car, he was trying to reinvent the car. I don't think Sergio has gone to that extent, but I think he's still trying to find a way to beat Max. And he should really do what Christian Horner said some races ago. Just drive the car. This is fast enough car that if he drives, he can easily finish second. And that's what they want from him. But anyway, now let's go to the main Grand Prix on Sunday evening, local time. What time was it for you in California when the race took place?
10 a.m.
Okay, so that was good time. That's great. What happened at the end was as expected. What happened at the start was not expected, at least not by me. The 2023 Qatar Grand Prix was a trip down memory lane to Barcelona 2016 when LCH and Nico Rosberg took each other out, opening the door to a teenager to win his first Grand Prix. Wonder who could that be? On Sunday, 8 of the top 10 drivers on the grid started on medium. LCH was one of the 2 who started on soft. So firework was expected between him and teammate and Max somewhere on the opening lap or 2. Sir Hamilton was in no mood to wait for the right opportunity and went on the outside going into turn 1, or as George Russell said, came from nowhere. Touching wheels with his teammate's car, he was left stranded in the kitty litter. Another trip down memory lane, Shanghai 2007. As karma would have it, George was able to continue. Now, adding insult to injury was a Euro 50,000 fine for Sir Hamilton for crossing a live track. Some of us remember then FIA President, your fellow Francais Jean-Marie Balest, crossing the track during the Monaco Grand Prix many moons ago. Not saying 2 wrongs make a right, just providing this as piece of informazione. And later, Lewis Hamilton did say, "I'm sorry," and shook hands and gave a hug to George Russell. And so looks like it's all lovey-dovey. Sir, what was your initial reaction when LCH was in the kitty litter?
Well, before the kitty litter, I was thinking about the start, and I have to admit, I thought it was far-fetched, but I thought George and Lewis could be a little bit of a problem. Lewis doesn't like starting behind George. I'm telling you, he's a 7-time world champion, and he feels that his TF has been assaulted. So he did what he thought would... He got a little exuberant. I thought it was exciting, and I have to admit, I didn't expect it, but when it happened, I just went, wow. Wow. And of course, Piastri and everybody else went wow, and it was quite shocking.
Yes. One driver did worse than LCH, Carlos Sainz Jr. He did not even start the race. His Ferrari developed some fuel issues shortly before the start of the race, and I have not seen much news as to what happened there. Maybe there is more to the story. The other race-long excitement was provided by Pirelli because of tire issue. FIA ruled for safety reasons car must come in for tire change no later than 18 laps after each stint. And the other useless excitement was provided by FIA graphics. Not sure about you, Mr. Rogers, but I really got sick and tired of seeing track limit penalty of 5 seconds for this driver, 5-second penalty for that driver, like every 5 minutes. In total, there were 51 such cases. And this is a first. According to Lance Stroll, this is a joke. And for once, I have to agree with him. How do you like 51 penalties in one GP, or you want more?
I think the whole thing is stupid. Just forget track limits, and then everybody's on the same track. They'll come up with their own limits. Let's have a race here and quit crying. I mean, this is really ridiculous, having to be in that white line. I think if you let everybody do what they want to do, then the limits are the track. We get better racing, less flashing penalty throughout the whole race, making the FIA look really silly. That's my 2 cents.
No, I totally agree with you. And one more thing, the area where Lewis went off, I was noticing that the runoff area was so big, you can put a NASCAR oval track there, or to borrow a phrase from Mr. Bernard Ecclestone, put in a shitty little oval there. Did you notice how big the runoff area was?
I did notice that. There was even room to put a sprinkler system.
Exactly. Anyway, somewhere in between there was a race, at least behind Max. As has been the case almost all season, Max was in his zone and a different zip code. It's obvious McLaren cars are getting more and more competitive. I think since the Qatar Grand Prix was a controlled race in terms of when teams were required to change tires, it probably camouflaged the pace advantage of one of the Red Bull cars. While teammate exceeded track limits a few times and got penalty twice, Max kept on going without making any mistakes and still set the fastest lap. It is looking like he has left most of his mistakes behind at Toro Rosso, and there were quite a few in those days. The team does not make any mistakes during pit stops. There are no speed limit violation by Max in the pit lane or operating without a permit at Mardi Gras like Dennis Hopper. Max has become the easy rider of the 2023 Formula One season, cruising to a career which is already unbelievable at the age of 26, and I say more power to him and his team and his GP2 engine supplier. Max now has 49 Grand Prix wins, just 2 short of Alain Prost, which he most likely will equal and surpass this season. He has 14 wins from 17 races so far this season, and only 2 for his teammate. This is worse than the rape of Nanking, and he is not even dim sum yet.
Yeah, I think it was overall a good race. I think what really made my race was that first stint where I think we were quite strong and good on the tires. After that, because we had a bit of a tire offset compared to the McLarens, I could drive a bit longer on most of the sets, which maybe in some places then cost me a bit on the outlap and stuff. So then, sometimes the gap looked a bit closer than it should have been. Then on the hard tire, I lost quite a bit of time, I think, in the last 2-3 laps because I had to get through some traffic. And then I had a slow stop as well to the end, so then they were very close behind me. But yeah, overall, of course, they have been really quick all weekend. So I think especially with the fuel coming out, it looked like they were, again, picking up more and more pace compared to me. Plus, of course, that 3-stop that was mandatory, I think was not ideal for us personally because our car is good on tires. So when you need to do longer stints because that's the fastest way around here, it would have probably been a bit better. But yeah, it was the same for everyone at the end that we had to do those stops. We had to deal with that. And yeah, made it also probably a bit harder to drive. We had to push quite hard out there. And yeah, as you could see after the race, a lot of people were quite tired, I think.
I think his fortune cookie is saying, you win again in Texas, Vegas, Mexico, and wherever you go. After the Mercedes coming together and one of the Ferraris not starting the race, it really became a case of McLaren boys fighting it out for second. And this team has a rich history of very unholy and very ruthless civil war. And in the palatial studios, only thing enjoyed more than Stella Artois and Jupiler is cage rattling, which is great taste and fast fulfilling. Towards the end, Lando was told to hold position, and as expected, he was not too thrilled to hear that. As if seeing Oscar win a race as a McLaren driver before him was not bad enough, Lando had to suck it up to miss out on second place behind his teammate on Sunday also. Oscar Piastri is proving my long-held ideological belief that heaven, which is Formula One, holds a place for those who win Formula 2 in their rookie season. The future is very bright for this young man from Melbourne, Australia. 2 podiums in one race weekend is very impressive for a driver in only his 17th Grand Prix weekend. And Mr. Host, do you think Oscar has established himself as the alpha dingo at McLaren already?
I think he has, and I have to add with authority. I mean, he won the sprint. And he's just getting comfortable at McLaren. Norris has been there for a number of years, so it's quite impressive. And it'd be fun to see if Piastri, what he could do in Perez's car, isn't it?
Oh, no kidding. George Russell was fourth. I get the impression, taking into account his first race for Mercedes, where he rattled the cage of Valtteri Bottas and winning in Brazil last year over LCH, that George Russell is the most flustered and frustrated driver in Formula One today, because deep down he is convinced he can beat Max and Lewis in the championship if Mercedes gives him the package, and he may be right. After he was hit by Lewis, he said on the team radio, "What the hell, 2 weeks in a row?" Some French was, of course, bleeped out.
You know, we both have the possibility of standing on the podium, and obviously nothing intentional both ways. These cars are so difficult to see when you're racing. There's big blind spots. We both have so much respect for one another, so you know we'll go past this, and I'm sure we'll speak, and I'm sure everything will be okay.
Since you are an honorary member of the Hammy Haters Club, which I think was started in 2007, gee, I wonder why. How did you see this coming together, and was he lucky again to escape any penalty?
Well, when you wind up in the kitty litter, I think that's penalty enough. I knew he'd get a penalty when I saw him cross the hot track. There's a lot of pressure on LCH and George, and we really don't know what's going on down there, down in the bowels. So, and there's a lot of pressure for Mercedes to be back on top in 2024. I mean, if they're not, we're going to see more of this kind of bubbling. And I don't know. I think there's some resentment between George and LCH. And George understands that LCH is still the leader of this team. He's still the newcomer. Yeah, I mean, you're right. George thinks he can win. But he's got a teammate that wants to win. And they don't have a car that wants to win. But let's admit it, that Mercedes is beginning to show some pace. I mean, I think it's a very fast car, and they're on their way. So hopefully, just so everybody can be happy, I want Mercedes to be more competitive, NASIR. But I love all this because I love Formula One. I don't hate LCH. I love him for being such a great driver.
Oh, nice to hear that. Okay, sir. Charles Leclerc in a Ferrari completed the top 5, 38 seconds behind the winning Red Bull. The prancing horse was not even in the same start form. If they think Red Bull will stumble again like they did in Singapore, and they can win another race in 2023, I suggest they get a double dose of cappuccino, wake up and smell the energy drink that has given wings to one man. Machismo, also known as Fernando Alonso, the evergreen of Formula One, he was 6th. He had a case of burning buns as his race seat got very hot. I think he is like George, grumpy and frustrated at not having a competitive package. Losing 3rd place in the championship to his ex-teammate is not easing the pain. Singapore was the only race where he did not score any points. With rumors now flying, Lawrence Stroll wants to sell the team, and pending arrival of his friends from Tokyo in 2026, I just don't see him getting win number 33, let alone championship number 3 by then. It will be an incredible day in Formula One, and probably one of the most celebrated wins if Alonso is seen on top step of the podium. Will it happen in a lifetime, Senor Rogers?
I do not think so, simply because he's up against the clock like anybody. He's the oldest guy in the paddock, and it's a Cinderella story, and everybody wants to see that, just like Hülkenberg and the podium. So I don't think it's going to happen. And now with Lance Stroll and his baby boy lollipop being frustrated because he's not really that wonderful, and the rumors of Lance selling while he's at the top because he believes Andretti will bring down property value. That's what it's all about. It's all about property value. They don't want to see those people in their neighborhood. And it's very disappointing. So there you go. I think it's called Canadian elitism.
Okay. Esteban Ocon was 7th, the only Alpine in the points. He has endured 6 DNFs so far this season, including 2 in the first 3 races. His teammate and compadre Pierre Gasly was 12th. Recently, Luca Di Meo, who is CEO of Renault Group, paid a visit to Alpine racing team in Enstone and let them know how he wants things done between the 2 teams in Enstone and engine department in Viry-Châtillon. Among the items on the menu, no more staying in different hotels. The name of Eric Bouyer is being rumored as possible replacement for Otmar Szafnauer. Sir, Eric Bouyer has a lot of experience. Would you like to see him? We interviewed him at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in 2019, I believe, and he was a very friendly gentleman. Would you like to see Monsieur Bouyer as head honcho at your team?
I think he's got good experience. He's French. He can communicate with these French drivers perhaps better. I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on at Alpine. And sometimes another engine that looks very capable, but the drivers are a little erratic, but fast. So, me, I'm a Renault fan. I'm hoping for the best, but you never know. And the problem is you never know when Renault is going to pull out. I don't know when the next Concord agreement is, but I'm always worried about that.
Okay, Valtteri Bottas. This was the feel-good story of the weekend as he finished 8th and his teammate 9th. Both Sauber Alphas in the points. The team has scored points in only 6 of the 17 GPs so far this season. Bottas did not score any points in the previous 2 races in Japan and Singapore. Teammate Guan Yu Zhou has scored points in only 3 races this season. Sunday was his first finish in the points in the last 10 races. The final point from 10th place finish was taken by Ombre, whose teammate is setting new record race by race, Sergio Perez. He is still second in the championship with 224 points compared to 433 for Max in the same car. Christian Horner has gone on record saying they are desperate to find out what is going on with him, and they want to help Checo get back his confidence and race-winning form. As Leo Sayer said in a song, "It's not easy when the road is your driver, and when, instead of running into a cucumber on the road, you run into Max Verstappen, your performance will be peeled off lap by lap, and by the end of the race you will be turned into Greek salad." And you know what Mr. Don Henley says, "The Greeks want no freaks," and nor does Dr. Marco and Christian Horner. What say you, amigo? Checo, keeper or chop for 2024?
I'm a Checo supporter. I think he can turn this around, so he has my support. I think he's got the team support in 2024. I don't think they're ready to have a different lineup. But, something could pop up. One person that's desperate to get that car is Lando Norris.
Yeah, that name is mentioned quite a bit, and Christian Horner was asked over the weekend, and he said Lando has a contract, Piastri has a contract. But we all know how strong these contracts are, and so does Sergio Perez. But Perez does bring a lot of money from Telmex, so we'll see how it goes. But I have a feeling that if he stays second in the championship at the end of the season, he will keep his seat. But if he finishes behind Lewis in a Red Bull, then you cannot blame Red Bull, doing a regime change in one half of the team. But we shall see.
Let me put it this way. If Checo finishes 3rd, Marco's pager will start going off.
There you go. Finally, sir, we come to your second favorite driver after Lewis Hamilton, your compadre Logan Sargent. Because of the Arabian heat, even at night, he was suffering from not so fresh feeling and retired from the race, and we wish him well. And we saw in the green room after the race, all these drivers were, or at least 2 of them, Max and Piastri, were lying on the floor. So this must have been a very tiring race for these youths. Sargent is the only driver on the grid who has not outqualified his teammate all season long. He is also the only F1 driver who has not scored any points. His teammate Alex Albon is 13th in the championship with 23 points. So things are not looking Florida fresh for the young man from Boca Raton. Sir, before we look into points to ponder, any other things you may want to say about the race?
I just don't think we should be racing in Qatar under these conditions. I think the heat is just as dangerous as rain. I mean, there could have been a fatality. Heat stroke is very, very serious. And to be honest with you, I was naive. I had no idea that the desert can also be high humidity. So it's got to be brutal. At least come to Arizona. It's a dry heat.
Well, they did that in the 90s.
They did.
And they found out the Formula One Grand Prix is less popular than the Grand Prix de Ostrich.
Well, after the Grand Prix of Ostrich, then everybody gets a free egg.
And let me tell you, I was at the 1991 race in Phoenix. Mr. Rogers, in March, it was so hot. I could not believe, in March. But, that's the way it goes. I went to IMSA GTO race. There's a track called Firebird Raceway in Chandler, Arizona. And I will never forget when the plane was coming into land, I could see the track. And what I noticed, you see people moving around this and that. I could not see any of that, even though the plane was very low. And then when I went to the track, there was nobody to be seen. And I'm looking around. Finally, I asked a guy, where is Dan Gurney? Where is Willie T? And they said, they're all at the hotel. It's so hot here. And it was just amazing. Okay, sir, we shall move with points to ponder now. Pole position for Max was, like we said, 10th of the season and number 30 of his career. Your man, Alonso, has made it to Q3 in every race so far this season. And Nico Hülkenberg, despite being out of F1 for a few years, has outperformed his teammate K-Mag in qualifying 12-5, which is very, very impressive. The inaugural Qatar Grand Prix was in 2021 and won by Lewis Hamilton. Last year there was no GP as the nation was hosting the World Cup football. And sir, we'll do a top 5 in the Drivers' Championship. Max leading 433 points and of course already world champion. Second, Perez 224, Hamilton third 194, Alonso fourth 183, and Carlos Sainz 153 points. In the Constructors' Championship, numbers are impressive. Red Bull Honda 657 points. Mercedes 326, third Ferrari 298, then Aston Martin Mercedes 230, and then McLaren Mercedes 219. And I'm pretty sure McLaren will pass Aston Martin. I will be surprised if they don't. What say you?
I totally agree. McLaren is definitely going to hold on to this pace. I don't think it's a flash in the pan, as Frederic Vasseur thought it would be. So, big news. And it's good for Max, too. Let's put it this way. Max isn't going to be pushed by Perez, so he needs these two young whippersnappers to push him a little bit because, really, he's doing it all on his own. And certainly, some pushing always helps great drivers become even greater. So, who knows what's going to happen next year, but I'm telling you, we have awesomeness. I just can't wait, that's all.
On that happy note, sir, would you like to take a Perrier or an Aquafina break?
I always stick with Perrier, even though they were once caught with benzene in the 70s. Remember that? It was exciting. But anyway, yes, let's have a little benzene. So we'll be back. And don't forget, we've got interviews coming up, fully loaded goodie bag. It's outrageous. So we'll be back after these brief messages.
Hi, my name is Linus Lundqvist, and you're listening to F1 Weekly.
Welcome back to F1Weekly.com. Clark Rogers here, your host. In now, as we spin the globe and go around the world with Motorsports Mondial and the king, the Swami himself, Nasir Hamid. Okay, Nas, one of my favorite interviews. I believe this took place in 2009, but I am not quite sure. Jean-Pierre Beltoise. How did it go?
Sir, it went very well. It did take place in 2009, the same weekend as the Le Mans. And after interviewing him, I did go to the Le Mans 24-hour race, and one of his sons was racing. And, I've known of this name for a long, long time, and a few years ago he passed away. And so I really wanted to talk to him. There was a lot of history there. I'm sure you remember there was a very serious accident in a sports car race, Buenos Aires in 1970 or 71, in which he was pushing his Matra across the track in front of the pit area, and this Italian driver Ignazio Giunti crashed into his car, and his car caught fire and he died. And that was very sad. And of course he was married to the sister of François Cévert. And when I was doing some research before going to Paris to talk to him, and the conversation took place at his karting facility near Paris, man, I just could not believe that his brother François Cévert was killed on Saturday and Jean-Pierre Beltoise took part in the race on Sunday. And I did talk to him about this, and of course he gave his reasoning. Interesting what he said. So I was very happy we were able to talk to somebody who was a prominent driver when I started following racing in the early 70s. And his other son, I think his name is Julien Beltoise, he was there, very nice kid. And I remember he used to race also European Formula 3 level. And so I asked him about, who did you race against and how did you do? He said, I did pretty good, but there was one guy I could never beat. And I said, who was that? And he goes, Jenson Button. So it all comes back to you, one way or the other. So hope our listeners will enjoy this conversation with Jean-Pierre Beltoise, a true legend of French motorsports. Beltoise was born in Paris in 1937. He was very successful as a motorcycle racer and won 11 national titles before moving to racing on four wheels. He was involved in a serious accident at Reims in a sports car race in 1964. The following year, his victory at the same track in a Formula 3 race saved the Matra racing program. He drove for Matra in Formula 1 in 1968 and was second in the Dutch Grand Prix. In 1969, he drove for Ken Tyrrell's Matra International team and was second in his home Grand Prix at the beautiful and challenging Clermont-Ferrand track, which, by the way, is the hometown of Patrick Depailler, and it was Jean-Pierre Beltoise who discovered Patrick Depailler and helped him earlier in his racing career, and he talks about this in this conversation. Shining moment of Jean-Pierre Beltoise's F1 career came in the rain at Monaco in 1972, where he scored the last ever Grand Prix win for BRM, a famous British team from days gone by. Beltoise is married to Jacqueline, sister of François Cévert, and this conversation took place at his karting track in Trappes, near Paris. I also had the chance to meet one of his sons, Julien. My thanks to both of them for their time, and a very special thank you to Mr. Mauro Bianchi and my friend Mr. Olivier Menou for making this interview possible. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm here in Trappes with Jean-Pierre Beltoise, legend of French motor racing. Mr. Beltoise, first of all, a great pleasure to meet you. How are you today?
As a lot of body, I'm going more and more in the age, and that I don't like very much. But I'm well. I am well. I have two sons. You have met one, Julien. The other one is more racing, Anthony. Well, I am in not bad condition, so it's okay.
Good. Now, before we talk about your great career, and I really enjoyed your racing career, let's talk a little bit about the French Grand Prix and what's going on. How involved are you in promoting the French Grand Prix?
If we had more time, now we have not at that time. I have 2 or 3 phone calls to give now, but I'm going to give one immediately because no, my phone is a little bit broken. Not broken, but I have something I have not with me. No. So, to answer to this question, I think really in 1 or 2 months, the French government is going to say our project, I mean François Poupany, Jean-Pierre Beltoise, north of Paris, is going to be the right project to organize the Grand Prix in 2012. And before, if we want the French Grand Prix, we could come back in Manicourt or in Circuit Ricard or Castellet. That's that. I cannot say more. I think, I hope 95% of chance, like that.
Where is your project? Is this going to be a street race or you're going to build a new track?
No, we're going to build a new track because in Paris it's not possible to do a street race because we have a lot of regulations. You know, France is very is not easy like some countries to organize, even made like States. I think States is more easy than in France. That is the reason. But the second reason is we need near Paris a very big racing track, safety track, a track to work about the mobility in the new system of ecology, of fuel consumption very low, etc. So, as our track is going to be built near Roissy, which is a very big airport international, Le Bourget, which is a business airport, and Chantilly, which is a very nice place where there are horse races, with a lot, you know Chantilly perhaps, no? With hotels and very top gam hotel. So I think the best solution was to build this system of track.
I hope your project succeeds, and I'm going to call you for a free ticket.
Okay, all right. You come back. When you come back, I give you a free ticket.
Okay. Thank you very much.
But before, we must ask to Bernie Ecclestone, you know?
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, Bernie has to say yes or no on everything. Okay, now we're going to talk about your career. Your racing career started on two wheels, and like John Surtees, you were very successful. What do you remember most from your racing days, motorcycle racing days?
I have a lot of souvenirs of my racing days in motorbike, because it was the beginning of the system, and also because I have a very good success, and I did motorbike because karting was not existing at this time, before 60s. And I have no regret, because I had a very nice moment. I was a lot of time French champion. And when I decided to go to car, because I did motorbike to go to racing cars. Perhaps I should have continued in motorbikes 2, 3, 4 years, because it was the beginning of a Japanese organization with Suzuki, Honda was coming, and it was the beginning of a very strong motorbike system, organization, with a lot of advertising. But it's like that. But I have very good souvenirs, very, very good souvenirs.
Now, you have raced both two wheels and four wheels. As a competitor, what requires more skills, racing on bikes or racing on cars?
Exactly the same. Exactly the same. You see, the problem is you have something to drive, 2, 1, 3, 4 wheels, with a good grip, not good grip, anything. It's always to be at the limit, to try to be at the limit, not to overtake this limit, and with this limit to have the shorter time to go to one point to another point. So it's the same scale.
Now here comes my favorite part of your career, racing on four wheels. You had a very bad accident at Reims, you folks call it Reims, when you joined Matra, and Mr. Jean-Luc Lagardère put you in charge of answering the phones. Please tell me about the early days and how was it working for Mr. Lagardère?
When I see Jean-Luc Lagardère the first time, I was with a lot of crutches and with plaster, and he said, no, it's not possible. And he said to me after, 1 or 2 years after, when I said that, I look at you, and I saw so much determination in your eyes that I said, no, I can't do that. We try. You know, now, just to show to you, that is... But it was not a problem. It was just a problem. I suffered a lot in the hospital for 1 year. And after, perhaps a little less of ability I had at the steering wheel, but this forced me to do a good car, not to have control very difficult in a fast Benz, and it's no problem.
How was he working for him? Was he a very demanding guy, or was he very nice to work with?
Pardon?
Jean-Luc Lagardère, was he a tough boss or a good boss? How do you remember him?
A fantastic boss, really, a fantastic boss. At the beginning of my career with Matra, I have been approached by Ferrari, by Ludovico Scarfiotti, who was from the part of Enzo Ferrari, to come there. And I said, no, I don't want. My family is Matra, Blue, Jean-Luc Lagardère, anybody. It was a fantastic boss, very clear, always very clear, very honest, and really, I have no regret, a lot of good souvenirs with Matra.
Now, his son is heavily involved in sports entertainment. Is he involved with you in this Formula One project that you are putting together? his son, is he involved in the Formula One project?
His son. No, his son he don't like very much. Yes, his son Arnaud. In fact, is not regarding about Jean-Luc was passionate by sports on the kart sports. Also, he took the managing of Matra, given by Marcel Chassagny and Sylvain Foirat, which are the presidents, co-presidents, and he saw the good opportunity for Matra to have a very good advertising by doing sports racing and try to win. Now we will see the cars in the world. It's not the same profile, it's not the same conditions. And Arnaud, from enough time, I not discussed with him. I know he do anything, again, not newspapers, but in the Hachette and many things. And he don't want to touch about sports cars. But he's very interesting by communication, advertising, organization. And as he could organize something in tennis, for instance, he could organize something with the Grand Prix de France.
Now, Reims was also the scene of first Matra victory, only 1 year after your accident. You know, your first victory in 1965 at Reims with Matra, first victory for them. How important was the victory for you as a driver in the Matra program?
Oh, very, very important, because for me and for Matra, or for Matra and for me. For Matra, because we did 2 or 3 races before with we have not succeeded to come in the first lines, and the car stopped. Little problem, because the car was very new. And by winning at Reims, it changed completely what not only the France, but the president of Matra, Sylvain Foirat, was thinking about racing. And when we have won, it was so big, so important, that it was the real beginning of Matra. We should have won more or less after. But Reims is like Monaco in France. It was the right place to win. It was a real fantastic and very quick speedway, and it was very important. And for me, it was very, very important, because a lot of people consider me like something which has too much hurt to could succeed in motor racing. And I succeed there to win Reims. It was a very big chances. I had a lot of chances. You know, I did a spin because somebody hurt me at the first corner. It was really a good chances to win. But by this winning the race, everybody could say, no, Beltoise is right to race. And it was a comfort for Jean-Luc Lagardère, which has taken a lot of risk to say Beltoise is going to be one of our drivers.
Now, motor racing in your days was very dangerous, and when you started in motorcycles early in your life, what was the reaction of your mom and dad? Were they supportive, or they were concerned that it's very dangerous?
Mom and dad. Dad, he respect my my decision, what I projected in the avenir. But my mother was against, and she changed completely after my first motorbikes wins. But now I imagine, because when I had this accident 1 year before my win in Reims, in 64, the first announcing for 2 hours in the night, I was killed, you know. So I imagine my parents. I can imagine. It was terrible for them. I think I gave them a lot of pleasure, not pleasure, but joie, a lot of joy, but also a lot of souci, concern. Okay.
Now, you were 1965 French Formula 3 champion. What was the best race and best memories you have from that season?
I don't know. Reims, sure, because before there was nothing. But I remember to have did a second place at Rouen, which was a very fast track and difficult track. And also I went in Cognac. I remember all that. Because all these races was the good decision to be the first Formula 3 champion, and it was very important, and I remember this. Rouen and the Cognac, I remember very much.
And who were the main competitors in the first championship that you won, Formula 3?
Well, Jean-Pierre Jossot, which has won 2 or 3 years before the Violoncelle. He has the same age like me. It was a really very difficult competitor for me. I didn't know Pescarolo, which was a good... he came after. International was Trevor Blogdak, which was a South African, I think. South African, yes. And a lot lot of English people, like Chris Irwin, a lot of, I don't know the name now, Pierce Courage. I was very friend with Pierce Courage after. No, I can't say because I have not the souvenir now, the names. But
in 1968, you were Formula 2 champion. How was that season, and what do you remember from your Formula 2 championship?
Formula 2 champion, after to being, I think it's 2 years after being first championship, sit me in good position for the future for the Formula 1. That was very important. No, I have a good souvenir. Also, good souvenir with the Formula 2, because all Formula 1 drivers, the best, Jack Brabham, Danny Hulme, Jochen Rindt, Stewart, Peterson, all were doing Formula 1 and Formula 2. And in Formula 2, we had the same engine, called the F2 Cosworth, yes. So the challenge and the fight was fantastic always. And also, we had still cars with not slick tires, not aerodynamic system, so with 300 horsepower, the car was sliding a lot. So I had a very good souvenir. I have kept a Formula 2, which is now not far to be ready. And for me, it's the more nice car I've driven in the racing. I forgot something before when my concurrent in Formula 3 was Eric Offenstadt.
Yeah, motorcycle.
And Eric, I must say, Eric was very important for me, for my career. Because 2 times after my accident, and at the beginning of my motorbike career, he helped me a lot. He presented me to Jean-Luc Lagardère after, and he said to Jean-Luc Lagardère, you must take Jean-Pierre Beltoise. And at the beginning, I have no money. And he said, I am going to buy an Air Mackie, new motorbike, and no, you must pay, but a nice price for my 175 Morini. So it's for you. When I came back from the army, I had an accident with car, not big accident, but a lot of damage. So I have no money to pay the bike. He said, Jean-Pierre, you must take the bike. You pay me when you can. Fantastic. Yeah. And I was so it's more dangerous concurrent. So Eric for me is a very friend, very very good friend.
Now in 1968, when you were in Formula 2, a lot of famous drivers were there, like you mentioned, Formula 1 drivers. Tell me about, please, Jochen Rindt. How did you find him as a person?
We know Jochen and Nina. Nina was very friend with Jacqueline, my wife. But also with Jochen. Jochen was he was somebody from the north, but south, in fact. Like you have in Austria, South Austria is like the French Riviera for mentality. And I didn't know him very well, but we did at the Bahamas, invited by Volkswagen, a race with, I don't remember the name of car, Monoposto, but with a Volkswagen engine, very slow, but we were invited, us two. And I won the race before Jochen, and after that, he came to me after, I say, Jean-Pierre, I know you now, and if you want, we are going to be very friends. Jochen, it's a great thing for me because I am in admiration for you.
Oh, very good. Okay, very important race. In 1968, you won the Formula 2 race at Hockenheim, and we all know what happened on lap 4. Who told you about that Jim Clark was killed in that race, and what was your reaction and the reaction of racing drivers?
Well, the reaction was incredible because we cannot imagine. And Hockenheim was not a very dangerous track, but what happens to the car? Because at this place, he should have not take off the road. A lot of trees, and there are no guardrail at this time, but we cannot imagine we can be killed at this place. So it was terrific when they said Jimmy is dead. But for me, it was more disaster because I was not married with Jacqueline, and before this race, we have a sort of dinner together, and he said, "Oh, Jean-Pierre, I'm sure you go to married with Jacqueline."
Jim Clark said that?
Yes. So it was terrible because I was a young man coming in that system with Jochen, Jimmy, and Jimmy just dead at this time. So it was very unlucky, very unlucky.
You were involved in the career of Patrick Depailler, another racing driver I admired very much. Please tell us where you first saw him race and what convinced you of his talents.
I remember very well that. It was in motorbike at Montlhéry, and it was certainly in 64 because I was in a little chair, you see, a rolling chair, and I went to Montlhéry because I want to look at the drivers and at the races. and I saw a young man, which was called Patrick de Paillet, with, I think, a Norton Dominator or something like that. Really surviving, we can say that, a lot in advance. And really with easy style, very efficient braking and cornering. And after the race, I came to him. I said, Patrick, I look at you. You are really a future big champion. If you want, I can give you for some races my Bultaco, because it's not impossible. My Bultaco, my Morini, I don't remember, because it's impossible for me to drive for still 6 months. So it's for you if you want. So we became friends like that.
Now, Patrick de Paillet, like you, won his first race in Monaco. Who was more crazy, Patrick de Paillet or Johnny Servoz-Gavin?
More crazy?
More crazy, like, very outgoing.
Oh, yes, it was very different. Very different. Patrick de Paillet was a little bit like me, somebody which is a good French boy with a family, with his home, with a family home. Mm-hmm. And Johnny Servoz-Gavin was out of that. It was a real adventure. Yeah. Playboy, going with that girl, many girls. It was not the same system as us. I love the two. I have loved the two because the two were my good friend. Much more after by the life, Johnny, which lived for 6 months in my home in Paris. Oh. Yes. They were completely different. Same talent, but completely different.
So Johnny Servoz-Gavin was a good racer, though.
A good racing? Yes. Yes, very good. But he stopped for. It's impossible for me in English to explain to you why he stopped. But he stopped because he was sure to succeed in anything. He wanted to do boat racing, boat around the world, speaking at radio, a lot of things. He was sure to do a lot of things. But I can tell you something very, very nice about Johnny before he died some years ago now. So by a friend of us, which was a manager of Auto Plus, we did with Jean-Luc Lagardère a last family organization at l'Étoile à Paris, in the Matra seat, not seat but Matra. No. Office, Matra, main office. Everybody which have raced and approach the rest, engineers and we have something like 50 persons in the office of Jean-Luc. And Jean-Luc say, "Oh, I'm very happy, so happy." He was really with a lot of business. So he passed with us 4 hours, and he said, "Okay, now we are going. What are you doing? To everybody? And now you, what are you doing? And everybody say, I'm doing that, I'm planning to do that. And your Johnny, what are you doing? Mr. Lagardère, now I am, how do you say, retired? Out of work. I do nothing. Uh-huh. I do nothing. I'm like somebody which work all life, and after he say, okay. Retired. Wait, I am retired. That's very funny.
And how old was he then?
How old?
Johnny?
Who was 50 or 55?
Yeah, he was a funny guy. Okay, I was telling your son, I started following motor racing in 1973, January. Mm-hmm. I was a huge fan of your brother-in-law, François Sever. Yes. Tell me where you met him first. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. I met him at Neuilly, near Paris, where I live, in the shop which was selling motorbikes, especially the Morini, importer for Morini. And in fact, I saw François, but I saw much more his sister, Jacqueline, which I am married now. Mm-hmm. And that is the first place where I saw him.
Who did you meet first, François or Jacqueline?
The two together, because Jacqueline was always with François.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the shop. Oh. And Jacqueline told me now, François told him, it's Jean-Pierre Beltoise, because I was winning some races already. Uh-huh. So he was in admiration for me. Uh-huh. And Jacqueline looked at me and said, he's not a guy, he's too thin. Thin or sick? Sick.
Yeah.
Too sick? When we are very...
Yeah, too tight.
Too tight. Yes. Yeah. He's too tight. And, but we were, in fact, looking after motorbikes. And after, François impressed me a lot by the Violoncelle, where I was sure Patrick de Paillet is going to win, because he was very good, and also François had not do a lot of racing, car racing, and less motorbike racing. Mm-hmm. And François win before Patrick. He was 10 kilos more, and also he was not experienced, and he win. Such fantastic victory for François, this Violoncelle, Elf, And that is was the starting of his many fantastic career and fantastic man.
Yeah. You know, when he was killed at Watkins Glen in 1973, you raced on Sunday.
Yes.
How difficult was it for you to race after losing your brother-in-law and fellow driver, or did you race because the team forced you to race?
No, when you are a racing driver, you can imagine during the night before the race, perhaps you could be killed the day after. You can imagine that, but that is not in your head. You know, after you are very concentrated to do the best possible to have the good determination to do a good car. A lot of things. So you don't think about that, really. I lost my first wife before, it was the same. In the race or before the race. After, it's terrible, but during the race, you have a lot of concentration to do the good tuning of the car, a lot of things like that. But I remember with Boeing, because I wanted to go there, to see if there's a possibility to do something. And I think it's Jody Scheckter who stopped me, and he said, no, don't go there, you must not go, because it was terrible.
Now, you know, I have a video of at home. It's the story of Matra called Racing in Blue. Okay, it's in French, and you are being interviewed, and you are saying, this is very, very impressive, inspirational. You are saying, when Ken Tyrrell called you to drive his Formula One car, you could not believe that I was a meat delivery driver, and I would be driving a Grand Prix car. Do you remember that phone call? Can you tell us a little bit about those days at Tyrrell?
No, I don't remember. I remember a lot of things with Ken Tyrrell, but I remember some important meeting with Ken Tyrrell, mainly when he gave me on the same car Jackie Hicks and me. Jackie is more faster and faster, but immediately after I do the same times, and I remember that very strong. And Tyrrell, very clever man, after 2 hours practice, not practice, but testing, he said, no, we stop today. Finish, because he was thinking perhaps one of the two could have a little bit too fast. It was at Woolton Park, which was a very dangerous track too.
Now, short on time, Monaco 1972, was that the biggest day of your motor racing life, and how was it winning the Monaco Grand Prix as your first win?
It was very fantastic, because in fact I was very lucky in my racing motorbike career, not hurt, and à côté, aside my accident in 64 with René Bonnet, my career with Matra was very fantastic from 65 to 68, I think, or 9. And after, I had a lot of problems with broken engines, not success. So after 2 or 3 years, with a lot of difficulty to confirm I could be a world champion, I could be one of the champions, the Monaco victory was delivery for me. Delivery? No, not delivery, deliverance. And changed also the mind of everybody who was looking at the race, because when you have a good success, everybody say, oh, it's very good, like James Button. Yeah. This year, and before I said, well, you certainly finish, you know. So it was the same thing for me, so it was very fantastic for me. But I was so unlucky at this period. I can tell you really, at 400 meters, 500 meters, so after the gazomet, when I put second, third, I say, I'm going to break the engine, sure. The engine is going to break or something, or broken transmission. And when I was at 250 meters, I said, even if something broke now, I could pass the finish line and win the race. Because I was so unlucky, Yeah. So for me, this souvenir really is exactly like that. It was exactly like that. So it was a deliverance. I don't know the name in
that's the right word.
Deliverance compared to the unlucky period from 2 or 3 years.
My 30 minutes are up. Finally, how about a message for listeners of people who listen to our podcast? And we have listeners all over the world, including in France. So would you like to say a message, please?
Yes. A message to racing fans. I was so lucky to get involved in racing, because I was dreaming about that when I was 30, 40 years or 15 years. And I succeeded in my dreams. So that I want to say to fans.
Okay.
I had a dream life by the opportunity. Also, the thing I wanted absolutely to do that. But I know I have a lot of fans because I receive a lot of.
I'm one of them.
Okay, and I thank them very much for this without of limit support.
Thank you very much.
And I'm really sorry for my English. It's very.
I understand everything you're saying. No problem there.
When I discuss with Bernie, it's very difficult for me, you know. With Eccleston.
Bernie is difficult for everybody. Thank you so much.
Monsieur Beltoise, merci beaucoup. F1 hebdomadaire vous souhaite bonne chance avec le retour et puis la promotion du Grand Prix de la France. Merci.
Thank you, sir. We shall start with Lawrence and LCH. Go your own way. Now, obviously, a lot of people, which is very disappointing, are very much against Michael Andretti's entry of being approved in Formula One. And speaking to Sky Sports, this is what Lawrence Stroll had to say, and I quote, "I think F1, at the moment, the business is on fire. The sport has never been in a better place. I believe if it isn't broken, you don't need to fix it. So I'm a strong believer that it's working really well with 10 teams right now and believe that's the way it should stay." End quote. Another high-flying team principal is also on the same page, Toto Wolff. Interestingly, then this was encouraging, numero unos from their respective teams, driver of car 14 and 44, Alonso and Hamilton respectively, are not towing the party line. At least at this time, both are interested in seeing Andretti team on the grid. Lewis saying, and I quote, "There are definitely people that won't be happy for me to be supportive of it. But I think it's great. It's an opportunity for more jobs." End quote. Here is my part. Traveling in first class on board the LCH-PC train, he continued, and I quote, "There's an opportunity for another 2 seats available for a potential female driver to come through." End quote. So here is my question of the day, brought to you in part by Nabisco, so we can see how the cookie crumbles. What are we talking about here, Sir Hamilton? Who can it be now, Susie Wolff or Susie Quattro? Mr. Rogers, maybe get your French lay wisdom on what Lawrence and LCH are saying.
I think they're saying he wants some female company in the paddock. That's what he's saying. And you know, there's a lot of women coming up in the lower formulas that look pretty exciting in terms of pace, NASIR, of course. So, but you got to give it to Lewis. He's right. This is more jobs, expansion. I have no idea. As a businessman, Lawrence Stroll disappoints me because this is not a fix. This is investment. This is expansion. This is always good for business. So, Lawrence, it's time to retire. I think some tennis courts in Montreal with Lance at the helm.
And you know, James Fowles of Williams is also very much against Andretti, and he said more than half the team are lossy, incurring loss each year. To which I have to invoke what Bernie Ecclestone once said: "If you can't afford to be in Formula One, go do GP2. What say you?"
I agree. Quit whining. If it's too expensive, get out of the kitchen, NASIR.
Exactly. Now we come to Bathurst 1000. The great Australian race was won only for the second time by an all-Kiwi driver lineup, Shane Van Gisbergen and Richie Stanaway. And our man on the spot was the original JB. And we are expecting and requesting Mr. Bentley to please share with us some beautiful photographs from this great race and this wonderful track. And I look forward to making a trip there in March. Sayonara to Honda. Marc Marquez is leaving the factory Honda team after winning 6 titles with them. Honda is having a Mercedes-like season in MotoGP. Most likely destination for Marc Marquez is Gresini satellite Ducati team. So we wish him well, and we hope Honda wins a race in MotoGP soon. Next, Palu versus Plaintiff. McLaren Racing is suing IndyCar champion Alex Palou for at least $23 million to recoup costs the team says it lost when the driver reneged on the contract he signed to join the team. Palou is from Barcelona. I was looking at his racing life before sailing to America. He never won a single-seater championship in Europe. In 2 years of GP3, he had one victory. In the 2018 European Formula 3 Championship, which was won by Mick Schumacher, Palou did not win a single race and finished 7th in the championship. So, I don't know what his management was smoking, or I should say ex-management was smoking, thinking with this kind of record in European racing, he will get a seat in Formula 1 with McLaren, especially knowing the talent of Lando Norris, extremely successful in Junior Series, and of course, Oscar Piastri. Need I say anything more? Like Alex Zanardi before him, Alex Palou has done a tremendous job in IndyCar racing, winning the championship in his second year, and this season took his second title with Chip Ganassi Racing. Going with Ganassi is a good move which may hurt him in the pocket, and we will find out how this thing is resolved sooner or later. Let's hope for a speedy resolution between Palou and McLaren so we can all go and enjoy motor racing. Sir, do you have any legal opinion on this issue?
I really don't have any legal opinions because I'm not qualified, but Palou is making the right decision. This guy has no chance in Formula One. He's having some good LCH luck over here in this side of the pond. And Chip Ganassi is a class act. The problem is $23 million. I'm hoping they just settle because Palou ain't got no $23 million.
But wait, there's more. Another driver is making a pit stop in the Jacoby and Myers 500. He tweeted, "I have commenced an arbitration proceeding in Indiana against Andretti Autosport, seeking to protect my rights. I am represented by John Maley and Mark Owens of Barnes and Thornburg. Respectfully, signed, Romain Grosjean." Well, he's your fellow Francais. What say you?
Well, I feel bad for him. It's not going to add up to diddly squat. Listen, the banking community is calling you, Romain. It's time to come back home.
Yes, sir, I do feel sorry for the ex-Swiss banker. Everybody loses interest in his services, even though he has a very impressive junior Formula life. First, he survived the Briatore boucherie at Renault, then Dante's Inferno in Bahrain. Now he is getting our favorite Isaac Hayes CD from Mikey. Next, sir, more drivers in the brown bag. McLaren has signed 2 more young drivers to join their driver development program. One is new F3 champion from Brazil, who I think is a good signing, or a smart signing, I should say, Gabriel Bortoleto. The second driver is a doozy, Brando Badoer. Yes, his papito is Luca, who was sent to the second floor by Scuderia Ferrari after doing a few races in place of Felipe Baby. Let's hope Brando Badoer can be a contender in the near future. Which brings us to famous last words, and today, Marlon is the man.
You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody instead of a bum, which is what I am. Let's face it.
That was awesome, NASIR. I love Brando, so keep up the good work. Any final thoughts? And of course, we're going to Austin in a couple of weeks. I'm sure you're pumped up about some hot dogs and some fresh Lone Star beer.
Yes, sir, and barbecue with KC Masterpiece sauce. Unfortunately, I'm not going there, Mr. Rogers, because my old body and system cannot standing 4 or 5 hours in the parking lot. I just can't do that anymore. But what I am doing this Wednesday, I'm driving to Road Atlanta. I'll be hanging out in an area called Alpharetta near Atlanta, where I have some friends, and I'm very happy and very excited to confirm that I did get an email from Michael Shank Racing, and the lady was kind enough to set up an interview with Elio Castroneves Friday morning for 10 minutes. So hopefully it will work out. And this lady, Maddie, she had also helped us do an interview when she was with another team, with Max Chilton. And then, Jensen Button is also there, and so I wrote to his team, JDC, and they responded by a thing which I appreciate, at least I get an answer. They responded by saying that anything to do with F1, I guess they went by the name F1Weekly, you need to go through Sky TV, and this lady at the team could not provide me. So I sent an email to the contact I was given by somebody to Sky TV, which I'm not sure if it's a very good address, but we'll see what happens. But it will be very difficult to talk to Jensen if that is a requirement. So we will see how that goes. And sir, the week after that, I am going to Indianapolis because the Indy Junior Series, they are testing there, and I need some racing fakes. So it'll be nice to go to the track, and I definitely will spend some time at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum because it's now closing for several months because Mr. Roger Penske is doing some huge renovation, which is very good. So hopefully it will be open by the time I get there. So we will see what we can do there.
Keep up the good work again. I want to thank everybody who listens. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.